I'm Sam Rose, and this is Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitors somehow just launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Well, see, you've got the hydration. You got,
hydration.
What is that, 60 ounces of hydration right there?
Wild. I don't know, but I'm really trying to get better. I feel like if I don't have a big jug like this, I don't stay hydrated. It's just the glasses from the kitchen don't do it for me. So I just need to.
I know what you mean.
Need to do
I'm
it.
sitting here with this is my method. It's just like
Also,
double-fisted Pellegrinos and a glass.
Also works.
So that I don't look like I'm swigging all the time.
I'll just be over here.
Yeah. When did you start the business, by the way?
So we launched in May of 2021. So we turned 4 this year. I think I probably started working on it in its many forms, and it has morphed so many times in 2019, maybe even 2018. We were going to launch in 2020, and then we decided to hold off, and we pulled the trigger in 2020.
Why'd you do that?
Right? There were like a couple things happening. It felt like, I don't know, not the best time.
I had such an odd We're doing it now, by the way. This is the podcast.
Yeah, perfect.
I had such an odd COVID experience because at the very beginning, I thought, my gosh, it really was the end times. And we were trying to figure out if everyone was going to need to be furloughed or just how we could keep the lights on. And we anticipated sales going down to 0. And then we were like, selling spatulas into a sourdough bread spike.
Right.
And that worked.
Wow.
So
crazy.
But had I been trying to make a decision at the beginning, I would have waited. I mean, we were a 10-year-old business at that point-ish, 9-year-old business. But yeah, I definitely would have waited.
Yeah. And we were kind of going through, I was going through the, do we do it? Is this a sign? When you're an entrepreneur, it's always like, now's not a good time. The universe is trying to tell me something. This is not. So it was really also just a challenge for me to say, pause doesn't mean it's off. It just means wait a few months, take a breath, see what's happening, and then go for it. Because I think you're just filled with so much self-doubt in the beginning.
Right.
That it's easy. I was like, it's easy to find an excuse to be like, oh no, we're not doing this. We're not doing it.
So how do you figure out when to listen to that little voice and when to tell it to shut the F up and just let you build?
For me, I'm always telling it to shut up because now I think I've learned the difference between my gut intuition, like really kind of raising a red flag, and me just being nervous to fail. And I think now I've really gotten over that because I fail every single day. And once you do it enough, you kind of become desensitized to it. And that's a good thing, right? It's helpful in my job. But I think I always listen to my gut because it's never steered me wrong. But I always try to just like shut up the voices in my head that are like, don't do this because, or, it's my gut always leads me and I try to cancel out the noise.
Yeah. I love that. Gut leads you and you cancel out the noise.
Yeah.
I think I tend toward that type of entrepreneurial behavior too, where I'm like, okay, data can help me make good decisions when I have it. But so often, especially as you're going from 0 to 1, as you have, and quite recently, you just don't have data to go on. So you're like, well, what else?
Right. And I think
what do you do when there's no data?
Yeah. You have to trust yourself. I mean, there's a reason. And I think especially in the beginning, it's so hard because before you've had external validation, you have to believe that you're the only one who should be doing this business, right? It's something I was always told as I would go into talks with investors. It's like, you need to convince them why you are the only person in the world who should be launching this company, why you are more qualified, not just by what your resume says, but why you are such a unique fit to do this. And then you go back and it's like, okay, right. Remember all those things. Those are true. We weren't just kind of, spewing off
just saying that.
Lip service. There is a reason why you're doing this and you have to kind of pull back and remember that.
Can you bottle that in some way? So like for you, because I want to talk about your sabbatical too, because I feel like not enough people give themselves the love and the time for that sort of space and like self-reflection that probably comes alongside it. But you decided to category disrupt, and it's a pretty big category.
It is.
And now you're in like, I'm going to get the number wrong, but hundreds and hundreds and
Yep.
hundreds of stores.
Yep.
And of course, like a really big presence with Sephora, which is where I first stumbled on everything. How do you bottle the voice to help give yourself the impetus for like knowing I am the person to do
Yeah.
this crazy thing?
So I think it's a couple things. One is you have to find whatever it is outside of your job that centers you and gives you like a moment away from it that makes you kind of helps you reconnect with that gut and the truth that you know. But also for me, it's like hype men. Like my husband is my biggest hype man. And the amount of times that I came home and was like, I'm done. This makes no sense. Like I'm going to Google how to file for bankruptcy. Like what, you know, and he's like, take a pause. So I think just having real, true support also makes it a lot easier. And I was lucky enough to have that. Not yes people, because those don't really help you, but the ones who, there's certain individuals, whether it's friends or family or mentors, who kind of, when they say it, you believe it. They cut
Yeah.
through where it's not just talk. And I think that's so important. People don't talk about it enough because it wasn't just me. It's not like I'm super powered and I can, everything blocks and I have this super confidence. No, I have imposter syndrome. Have full of self doubt. And I think most entrepreneurs are. But I have a really strong network of people that I respect and who have helped me through it.
I think that's such an important touchstone to have. Like, and it's extraordinary friendship when you can have someone like that who can hype you up, but can also is so trustworthy that the hype is like calibrated, right? They're like telling you to gun it just the right way. And I think also for those people in my life, they're also the ones who are like, Sam, stop. When I really need to be
Important,
stopped,
right?
that's
You
a
need
bad
it.
idea.
People will call you on your bullshit, and it's
Yeah.
important. Yeah, 1000%. So I think honestly, I couldn't have, and it's not just him. I have a few kind of people in my inner circle that I really lean on. Without them, I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah.
It's that important, the impact that they've had
It is
on
that
the
important.
success.
Yeah, and I think in a way, it's their job to how do I define this? Like their highest and best job is that they or contribution, I should say, is that they believe in you, which doesn't necessarily mean that they believe in every idea you have.
No,
And
and
I think
shouldn't,
that's
and
the
shouldn't.
difference between like a really good business friend and a really bad business friend is the good
Yes,
business friend always believes in you, but doesn't believe in every idea you have ever.
yes,
And then they can
1000%.
like help you like
That's
notch it down.
absolutely it. But they
Yeah.
believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. And those are the moments that you really need to lean on them to kind of pick you up because like I said, there were a lot of times where I was like, does it make sense to keep going? It's just like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And when you're in those moments, it's hard to see the light. It's hard to, and then of course, one thing happens and then you go on this, upward trajectory, or I guess, yeah, upward trajectory where things are going really well, and then
Yeah.
something else will happen, and you'll crash back down. And I think
Bam.
now I'm 4 years in, so I get this is the gig I signed up for. But even if you're aware of it, and everyone will tell you that it's so hard and all the things, but when you're in it, it's hard to explain how difficult it can seem, insurmountable it can seem at times.
Yeah. Well, and I think that provides me with a great opportunity to pull out an example from your recent business history, which is that you sort of started with one product and I don't think I should call it a pivot, but
Oh
you
yeah, it was a
certainly
pivot.
sort of like focused on a different category. Tell us a little bit about what I'm obliquely referring to.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then yeah, how did you decide?
when we launched in 2021, we were clearly positioned as a shaving brand. And I was all in on this idea of, and so we just moved offices, so I don't have any of my toys to show you, but a weighted metal safety razor was really
Mhm.
inspired by, or rather like horrified by the amount of plastic razors that were ending up in landfills. And I thought it was kind of people are talking about the straw, they're talking about the plastic bags, they're talking about all of this, but they're forgetting about the razor. Not only that, it was amazing from a performance perspective, but it had a lot of issues. And I think education is something I talk about all the time because it's a hurdle when you're innovating. But it's a nice challenge to have. I think it's important to also know when it's too much to overcome. And I think in the case of our razor, because you will get the smoothest, especially for anyone who is prone to ingrowns, has sensitive skin, reactive skin, all three are me, you will never get a smoother shave, but it is a sharp blade and it is really hard, even though you can put all over the packaging. Don't press down. Don't use like a regular razor. Don't apply pressure. Nope. We had this whole no pressure lifestyle thing going.
Yeah.
But you know what? To retrain someone, it's just muscle memory. To do something that they've been doing since they were 12 or 13 years old is very, very difficult. And it's even more difficult when there's blood involved, right? It's like if you
Right.
push down a little too hard, or if not too hard, if you push down on this kind of razor like you do with your Gillette, you will cut yourself. And so it wasn't just that. So we were kind of going in this kind of uphill battle against that. And at the same time, when we launched, we had one product and it was our shave pillow, which is a stick meant for dry shaving. And people were going gaga over that product. It was like, why didn't anyone think of this before? You know, it was born purely out of me, literally running around my apartment, you know, trying to put on a tank top and, you know, soap and water, like dripping down
Yeah.
everything, or just like doing it dry and suffering the consequences later. I think we saw a really strong interest from that formulated product design perspective because it fit a real need and it was so innovative. And so obviously, you know, product development takes a long time. So when we launched, we already had quite a few formulated body care products that we were planning on rolling out. And the second one that we rolled out was Water Balm, which is a spray.
Mm.
It's basically a lotion replacement, but it feels like water on your skin. And so for all those people who hate the sticky kind of tacky feeling of lotion, having to wait before you can get dressed, it's also a bug spray. We just found out last year by accident, it's a beautiful natural bug repellent. And so as we started rolling out these products and listening to our customers, right, we already heard the frustrations with the razor, the fact that people loved that it was more sustainable. You know, I'd say 25% of the people who used it loved it, didn't cut themselves, but we had this big gap. And at the same time, we're launching all of these new formulated products, and people are really gravitating towards them. And so we made a conscious decision, I think, after we launched our third product, which is our hero product, Splash Salve, to completely shift the business. I mean, we barely talk about shave anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, the people who love the razor are evangelical about the razor, and I love those customers with all of my heart because it's so near and dear to me. But I think the worst thing you can do is be so in love with your idea or so
Mhm.
convinced that your idea is it that you don't hear what your customers are saying. And I'm really glad that didn't happen to us. I'm really glad we stayed close with our customer and they were asking for it. I mean, slowly but surely, the percentage of our business that was going to formulated body care versus shaving was shifting and shifting. Okay, well, at a certain point, you have to look at what the people want and give them more of that. And so while it was hard for me because I had spent, I mean, the development on this razor it's a beautiful stainless steel. I've been all over the world sourcing materials. I mean, it
Yeah.
was 2 years of intense labor just to get that built. Um, to be able to kind of not say goodbye, it's still a part of our, but we don't spend any active marketing dollars on it because when you're a small business, you have to make decisions. Sure, I would love to like be able to love all of my children, my Hanny children equally, but unfortunately that's just not it's not possible. You have to pick some winning horses and place strategic bets on them. And so once we did that, we really saw the business start to climb.
It builds on the theme that we were talking about earlier, which is that you've got to know when to trust yourself and then know when to listen. And we were first talking about sort of your closest friends and my husband's my business partner too. So for both of us, our husbands, but then, you can kind of abstract that over to the customer relationship. And it's like, you've got to start with something. You don't have any data. You just have to have insane belief and like, the willpower to bring a product or a couple of products out into the world. And then you start to get data and you got to listen to your customers. And if they're giving you signal that like they want a different thing from you, you have to have really just sort of like the lack of ego to allow yourself to pivot and despite the sunk costs, because you're right. I mean, you
Well,
put that much
the
time and
amount of
money into
working
something.
capital that because that was, they were so expensive to make. They're not cheap pieces. I mean, it was an expensive pivot and but the sooner we did it the better. And I think the other thing is like you just got to go. I don't mean go with what you have even if in your gut you don't really believe in it, but like every indication told me that this approach, new approach, also disrupting approach to the shaving category was going to be massive, right? It's like it hasn't been disrupted in so long and this is such a better alternative. Well, you know what? That was what I believed, and to your point, we learned otherwise. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that pivot was such an important turning point in the business. If we hadn't done it, we'd be out of business right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We would have burned through all of our cash and we wouldn't exist.
I think one of the interesting struggles with identifying a category that needs to be disrupted, identifying that you're the right person to do it, and then going for it is that, and this has happened to me too, it's not infrequent to have a couple of other pretty spectacular individuals right around the same time realize the same thing. And so all of a sudden, this legacy industry that's
Yeah.
so sleepy and there was no competition for the thing that you're doing, which is to disrupt it. And you're the only one. And then you're like, there's three of me. Like, what am I
Totally.
gonna do?
Isn't it wild how that happens and the timing and
It's very upsetting.
it's pretty crazy. And the
Yeah.
same thing happens with body now, right? Like body, so we shifted and body is also, a massive category, but also a kind of sleepy category that hasn't really been disrupted. I mean, it's lotions and creams and scrubs and the same kinds of products. And then all of a sudden there was like a wave of these, new body care brands that were really urging people to take care of the skin on their body the way they took care of the skin on their face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that part is exciting to me because when you're in a category that needs disrupting or a relatively new category, I don't want to say the more competition, the better, but the more attention you can bring to the need and the category itself, the better. Like I have some really amazing competitors in this space, but like when they do well, I do well because for us, it's a question of, premium body care, right? This commoditized category that people have always bought in the grocery store or in Target, right? For $9 as a lotion, a $15 lotion, whatever it might be. Will they buy at a premium, more premium price point for X, Y, and Z reasons? And so, these other brands that are coming out have come out around the same time. For me, it's amazing because the more people who understand the benefits, and of course, every product offering is different, and we pride ourselves on innovation from a product perspective. But the bigger the category grows, the more opportunity there is for us. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's a good thing.
I agree. And it's a rising tide of ad dollars and of all of the rest,
Absolutely.
right? Like if there is an educational component to what you're selling, no matter what category you're in, the more people throwing their budget at educating the consumer, the better it will be for everyone. And
Absolutely.
I get excited when when I can see like other founders that I really respect, or that here's a great signal. Like if you're scared of the competition of the founders that are in your category that are like hypothetically competing with
Yeah,
you, but also part of the tide, such a good signal.
totally.
I want
100%.
to be terrified.
Right?
And then let's be
It
friends.
just it's 1,000% that. It's like admiration and fear, and I'm also super competitive, so all of the things, that drive me,
Yeah.
but really more than anything, it's just it's great for the category, for this specific category of kind of more premium body care and why it's important to put cleaner, better, more efficient products on your largest organ in your body. And, most of the square footage is from your neck down.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing to hook onto there, and I don't know how much, but I'm curious to hear how much you think about this, is just the acquisition path for the business, right? Like there's kind of three possible, well, there's four modes. You fail. But we're going to
Right.
talk about that on this
There's a
one.
lot.
We spent plenty of time talking about failure. Then there's you run it profitably indefinitely, right? And sometimes that is diminished as something called a lifestyle business, but really that's just like a rad profitable
Yeah,
business that is worth
totally.
that has customers that are happy. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Then there's acquisition by you, or by there's strategic acquisitions, and you can lead that, or one of your competitors can lead that. And then there's sort of like institutional acquisitions. But in the
Yeah.
world of strategic acquisitions, the first and most obvious place to look is like your friendly competition. They're about the same size and
Absolutely.
about the same stage. And do you spend a lot of time kind of thinking about the exit path for your business?
I do and I don't. I feel like it depends on the stage. Do I have a goal in mind? Very clear goal of where I want to get to, what my EBITDA targets are, what my top line targets are, 1000%. And am I working towards those every day? Yes. At the same time, I think it's easy I kind of have to put myself because we're such a small team and I feel like I've just spent so much time fundraising in this journey and it's obviously been
Mhm.
so difficult. It's been such a difficult anyone who's been out fundraising over the last couple of years knows that. I feel like it's important to keep that big picture, especially when it comes to profitability, right? It's no longer an option. It's an absolute must and running a lean and efficient team. But I also don't want to get because there's a million things that can happen, who knows? Like it can go this way, it can go that way. And so I also don't want to become so obsessed with it that it takes me away from the day to day and kind of what we're building for this week, this month, this year.
Yeah.
So I think it's twofold. But yes, do I have a very clear plan of where I want to go and how I'm gonna get there? You better believe it
You
for sure.
betcha.
You bet.
Well, and the great thing for an operator like you is that really at the point at which you reach sustainable, profitable growth, any outcome further to that is a great outcome,
Yeah.
right? Like if it's sustainable and profitable and growing and you enjoy doing it, there's no reason not to just do that until make another marker for yourself and keep going and keep going. But also you might be equally satisfied by saying, well, okay, like we can grow through acquisition instead
Right.
of growing through customer acquisition.
Yeah, and so much of it has to do with where you are in life, and that's why I try not to I have a plan, but who knows what's gonna happen? Who knows, I've got tons of energy and I wanna be doing this, other projects, whatever the case may be, building for a really long time, but so much of it has to do with then where you are in life, and so I also don't wanna get too comfortable with the idea that I'm gonna get there, because then you lose the edge, right? For me, it's always like, even when I've achieved things this isn't a positive thing, but I've kind of like convinced myself I haven't. And so it's hard for me to celebrate the wins and something I'm actively working on. And I almost convince myself that like you're not going to be able to get it. And that almost challenges me to keep driving because I think it's kind of like the scenario when you think like, "Oh, if I win the lottery," my husband and I always do this, right? When we win the lottery, what are we going to spend it? Where are we going to buy houses? And you start thinking of all of this. And I believe in manifestation and all of the things, but I think it's important not to get too carried away because you know what? This is the thing about being an entrepreneur. It could all implode tomorrow, and I could also
Yeah.
be just kind of the brain could close and I could be left with nothing. And you have to be okay with that
Right.
part too, right? Can't be driven by the future. I think that's hard. I think
Yeah.
you have to be aware of the risks and you have to be doing it for the right reasons because if you're doing it just for a successful acquisition or just to be able to hit, this, I mean, it's hard out there and businesses are closing every day and you have to be acutely
Yeah.
aware of that.
No, honestly, owning a business is the worst way ever to try to
Oh
make
my
money.
god.
The
Right?
worst.
I
Like
haven't
if
paid myself
you
a salary like in 4 like
totally.
everyone's like, "Oh, you see the glamorous part and it's amazing, but it's really hard."
Yeah.
And you just don't wanna take anything for granted, and you can't count on anything because you don't know what's look what if any I mean, markets crash, great businesses turn sour, the opposite can happen, right? Certain things pick up and you see this
Yeah.
unexpected spurs of growth, so I just don't wanna ever get too carried away. I wanna keep the goal in mind, keep working towards that, but also put ourselves in a position where you know, we're profitable and we're not dependent on outside capital. And when these things happen, we can withstand them and we can weather the storm. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
I think loving being in it, in the mud of it all is really an important, almost like a hard code that's just got to be in there running all of the time. And
Yes.
like, then
Right.
there's variables, but the hard code is like, you could basically be joyful doing the most menial,
Right.
like worst
Packing up
work.
the boxes and they're not
Yep.
right. Everything. I mean, because that's going to
Or
be,
like imagining strategy.
yeah,
You
everything in
said
between.
something a couple of minutes ago that I loved about kind of creating a plan, but also being very flexible. And it reminded me of sort of like what is this, like strong opinions loosely held.
Yes.
There's a phrase like that. And I feel that way about planning. Like the point of a plan, in my opinion, is just to have done that work, but not that you actually necessarily have to stick to the plan, which is different than having like an aspiration or a goal, right? But like the how you're gonna get there is gonna zig and zag so many times. So it's sort of like you gotta have a place you're going on a map, And you need to think about how to get there. You need to like, here, let's make it a mountaineering metaphor. You need to like know the terrain. You have to equip yourself, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to have extra provisions. You should probably travel with a friend. But then the how that you get there will almost certainly change based on the weather.
Right.
And
Yeah. That's a
without,
great,
but I
I
mean,
love
you
that.
know, well, it's
Yeah.
going to be the title of our new book together.
I also think it's like it's such an important point about making the plan because oftentimes for me, what happens is while I'm making the plan, other things arise. It's just really sitting down and thinking about it. And in that moment, the plan that I thought I was making totally shifts into something. So before we've even had the chance to have external circumstances affect it, just sitting down and thinking and putting pen to paper, it's super important. Don't just think it in your head, write it down. In that exercise itself, I mean, this happens to me all the time. Something else pops in my head and you're going on all these different paths and it's so important. And I think I learned like the writing it down is fundamental.
Yeah. It's like
For me,
infinite quizzes. There's never actually a test
right.
at the end of the semester, infinitely quizzing yourself and practicing.
Yes.
What is your go-to? I'm so interested in like the size of your team, what everyone does, and then your go-to tech stack for pulling it all off. And I know because I know that you run lean and mean.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your team and how they get the work done.
Yeah. So we just hired our fifth employee, which I'm so excited about. And she's here in Atlanta, which is like I live in Atlanta. To have, we've always been remote, mostly between New York, LA, and I'm kind of the outlier. But I mean, she just started, but the ability and the collaboration, just the difference there in in-person collaboration, it's really making me rethink a lot of things for the future. And I think it's important for, we're a team of all women. Flexibility is so important. All of us are mothers. And I think that's like our superpower. We've had like a bunch of Hanni babies along the way.
Yeah.
And so we have right now, yeah, my team is lean. It's myself, my COO, Jenny, who has been with me pretty much from the beginning, my head of product, who we dream up all the amazing product ideas with, who used to be my boss at L'Oreal. She and I have worked together for 25 years and she can't get rid of me. She's tried many times and it's never going to happen. And then we have Madeline, who's my right hand in everything. I brought her on as social. This is what happens when you have lean teams. I brought her on as social. She now does social, partnerships, influencer, community. I mean, what doesn't she do? And now we have Hillary, our new VP of marketing based in Atlanta. So we also have the most insane part-time customer service. I believe in customer service with all of my heart. It's something that I think really sets us apart. We get so many, I mean, it's just fundamental. I'm not saying we'll never, as we scale, find a hybrid model because I do think there are things with AI. I think there are ways to make it more efficient, but losing that human touch, I know for myself as a customer is incredibly frustrating. And so I think it's one of the things that has us really standing out. So yeah, and then we also have a wonderful design team, actually based in Buenos Aires, where I used to live,
Nice.
because I mean she's the one who came up with the original logo in 2018 for Hanni, and again has just like stuck with us ever since. We are very lean.
Yeah.
I always like to tell people we are very lean and we're very focused. So I think another thing that's at least I struggle with in the beginning is there's so many shiny balls, there's so many opportunities, right? You have these great products and you have this category that's wide open, especially if you have like a fresh round of capital or something. Just, there's so many things I can do. And I also learned very quickly that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the best way to grow now, because efficiency is so important, is staying focused. So we focus not only from a product perspective, right? We're not launching, we I don't think we'll ever be the brand that's launching 8, 10 beauty products a year, even
Mm.
7, 6. It's every one of our products has a purpose. And if it doesn't have a purpose and it doesn't contribute to our why, we don't launch it. And so this year, for example, we stayed true to core and we just really talked about core and why the products are so unique. And, we launched some travel sizes and we have a variant coming up at the end of this month, but nothing really new product dev. And I think that's really, really important also from a distribution perspective. Obviously, we're so lucky to have an incredible partner with Sephora. We have Amazon and we have D2C. And I'm not looking to bring on in the foreseeable future other retailers. It's like we have this massive opportunity in front of us. We need to double, triple down there. because we have the best distribution partners, in my opinion, in beauty. They're already on board. They already support us. And so I
Right.
think also just that goes back to kind of the plan and narrowing in, and that helps us stay lean because everyone, I've seen from a lot of brands, and I've worked on a lot of brands that this has happened where you end up getting a bunch of again, usually happens after a fresh round of capital and you got this money and you think hiring a bunch of, and look, I come from L'Oreal, so but a bunch of ex big beauty people with impressive resumes is going to do it, and you burn through your cash really fast, and they're not always the right fit. I mean, sometimes they are, but I always say this, I would rather have someone who's hungry, doesn't come from beauty, and like really wants it, than, we have enough beauty. I come from beauty and comes from
Right.
beauty. We have that core. It's not like we have tons of beauty experience, but give me the hungry people. Like, give me the ones who really, really are like curious and want to write a new playbook, because I think the old playbook in beauty, or probably any industry, beauty is just the one I know, it doesn't work. It's changing too fast. We can't
Yeah.
compete. The other thing is the playbook that works for big beauty doesn't work for us. We can't try. I can't try to go toe to toe on influencer events and dinners and activations. I'll go broke so fast and we won't make as much of a splash. So like, how do we do things differently? When is this airing?
Couple of weeks.
Before or after the 30th?
Well, we can time it however you want, but
Okay,
we was
no,
planning on before. But if
So we're
it's better
doing
for
this
you to have
launch
it be
event.
after, we
No, I was
can.
just saying, a good example of this is, and feel free to not include this because it's not happening till the 30th, but we're launching a fragrance-free version of our splash salve on the 23rd of September. And then we're having an
Right.
event on the 30th. And it's fragrance-free and it's approved by the National Eczema Association. It's totally like net new, incremental new market. And in the beginning, I was thinking we should go after and moms because they love being able to put national eczema. So many babies have
Yeah.
eczema. And I thought, hold up, like we're going to be competing even from the influencer perspective with big pharma, the CeraVe's and the Cetaphils and all these
Yeah.
huge budgets, and it's hard to get people to talk about you. And I said, well, what if we use this instead as an opportunity to reintroduce the world to splash salve, the kind of the family, and this idea that the most powerful tool you have for keeping your skin hydrated is already in your house. It's your shower. If you are not moisturizing in the shower, what are you doing? It's so much better to have a product like that. And so the more I started thinking about wash and glow and washing and sealing it in, I thought of a car wash. And so what are we doing for our event in Los Angeles? Please come. I'll send you the
Oh,
invite. Yeah.
I'm in.
Right in West Hollywood. We're doing a car
Great.
wash. We're doing this event for no money. And basically we're taking over a car wash, vintage car wash theme. People are coming out. We're giving them a free car wash. We've rented this vintage car. We're filling it up. We're giving them
So
fun
cool.
bumper stickers. Everybody in LA, apparently, you can confirm this for me. Everybody in LA loves getting they get their car washed a lot. I get my car washed like I'm the worst at it. So this is
No,
phenomenal.
I can confirm
Right?
the local
People get their car
obsession
washed
with car
once a week
washing.
in Los Angeles. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So we're doing
Well,
this like a
when it's
really,
like a second home, really. You spend so much time in the
that's
car.
true.
It's
That's true.
better be clean.
But it's, and so we're doing this really fun, out of the box event, and we're getting the TikTok shop community involved, TikTokers, like and we're going to do it different. And I think it's going to be amazing. It's, we've got Cha Cha Matcha coming and doing like a pink drink for the thing. And people are going to come, get their car washed, hang out, chat, get some goodies, and be on their way. Because you know what? If we were to do another influencer lunch, they'd have 4 other influencer lunches lined up right after that. They come, they take a picture of the centerpiece, which I'm sure would be beautiful, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I just think, doing things differently and finding people, that's where this came from. Like, where was I
Yes.
going? Finding people who think outside the box is the most important thing. The most.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I'm hearing in that is that especially at this early stage, you have to have a group of people around you who can like creatively spitball towards stuff like that and not feel like it's out of order, right? Like the most difficult early stage teammates in my experience have been folks who are like, well, I don't do that. Like, okay, but
Yeah, that does not
like,
that's
there's
also
no
a
one
reason
else
why we have
here.
such a small team, because like it's a unique individual.
Yeah.
I always give my head of social and everything, when I first hired her, she was like, I don't think I can do this social, like the captions. Now it's like 10% of what she does in addition to like the other 90%. So I think there's a difference between people who say, I won't do that, and people say, I don't know if I can do that. And the I won't do
Yeah.
that is not tolerated. That doesn't exist. I mean, I'm on my hands and knees doing everything. And so I expect that everyone else on our team does as well. And they all do. Everyone feels ownership. So I'd rather keep it lean and keep it efficient. And yeah, the more we grow, the more we lean on external partners, right? I don't think I talked to a founder once who said he had $100 million brand and he said they had 6 employees. Okay, that might be true, but there are a lot of other, like, don't get frustrated if you have 8 employees and your company's doing $10 million or whatever the case may be, because
Yeah.
when you keep it that lean, you lean on agency partners, you have to lean on some external specialists in order to help you grow in ways
Yeah.
that, places where it doesn't make sense for me to be spending my time, I lean on experts who are far better at it than me.
Yeah. And what for you and for your business right now, what are the disciplines, say, where you've kind of chosen to intentionally park those outside of the business rather than as internal resources?
I think for me right now, a lot of it is kind of these new channels that no one's really an expert in yet. Not that, okay, so this one's not a new channel, but Amazon, for example, we have an Amazon partner who does Amazon better than I ever could, no matter how many Amazon courses I took. So there it makes total sense. And I think most brands now, I think it's harder to do it in-house because there's so many areas, right? From creative, it's not just paid media. There's so many things involved. So if I can get a team of like 7 or 8 experts under one umbrella, all going for Hanni, that's a big thing. I think same thing on TikTok. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone's a real expert there. I mean, I think there's things you can take in house that make more sense, like from a content perspective. But again, it would be such an extraordinary lift for my team, would require more than one headcount to be able to get to the levels that
Yeah.
I'm able to with this partner. So I think those are two that immediately come to mind. Trying to think what else. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, there's a few things we have external right now that I'm eager to bring in house because I
Oh,
think we
let's
can
talk
keep.
about those.
I don't know who's going to be
Maybe let's
listening to
not talk about those.
I don't know. These are just things in my head, but I also think it's important reassess. In the beginning when we were 3 people, I did need to lean on more. I mean, no,
Mhm.
in the very beginning, I didn't lean on anyone, right? I was doing our emails and I was doing, and then there's a shift that happens where you start to outsource. And then I think it comes back around
Yeah.
where agency partners, and it depends. I have some agency partners that no matter how big we get, I can never imagine terminating that relationship because I just think they're amazing. It sounds so cheesy because every agency will say, "We're an extension of your team," but they really are. There are people I talk to on a daily basis. Every agency is like, "We think our, place of differentiation is that we really are an extension of your team." And I'm like, "Okay, show me," because
Prove
everybody
it.
says that. But we do have some that are. And then there are some where I'm like, "We could probably take this in-house." So I think also just
Yeah.
my eye is always on efficiency and profitability. And so it's just something that I'm always looking at. Is it something that I could hire one person to do these 3 things that we're paying 3 different agencies for right now? And it makes a lot more sense. We could probably do it at a higher.
Yeah. And I think that you're right. Like the answer kind of spirals up and it changes over time because like if I'm just being really reductive about it, at the beginning, one person does all the things. Very small number of people do all of the things. And then as you sort of start to hit a bit of a growth motion, you need really calibrated experts to bring you to the next level, but you don't need 100% of 5 more people's time. So it makes sense to pay a bit of a markup to get that like really, really surgical expertise that you need on a more narrow basis. And then, okay, now you're at the next step of growth. And it's like, well, wait a second. Agencies on average charge about 3 times what their operating costs are to deliver the service. I know because I ran one and because I've been a customer. And at some point, if you're using 40 hours a week of one person's expertise at an agency, well, it's like, okay, I'm paying
Right.
3 times as much as I ought to. I got to bring that back in house. And it
Absolutely.
just spirals up and up and up, right?
Yes. And I think there's definitely a point at which, and we're starting to get to that point where, you just start to assess, and I think it's as long as you're constantly looking at it, it's fine. Agencies are great. Like they have a great,
Yeah.
and I think the good ones really stand out.
Yeah.
Um,
And the bad ones waste your time.
the bad ones waste your time and you cycle through them with frustration like every other brand until you either find one or
Yeah.
you take it in-house.
But that's really true of everything, right? That's true of like retail accounts that you think are going to work but don't work. It's true of
Yep.
employees that you think are going to work but don't work. It can be true of co-founders where you think it's going to work and don't work. So I guess the point that we're both trying to make here is like constant reassessment of where you're at relative to how you're resourcing all of those things is like the name of the game.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people can get complacent, right? Because an agency might be doing a great job and you're seeing the growth. But again, if you're obsessed with EBITDA like I am, then even though you're seeing the growth and you might even be profitable, it's like, could you be more? Could you make this even? So I think it's also just not being complacent. Just because things work doesn't mean you can't get them to work better.
Right. And being in it sounds like you're really in the details.
Yeah,
Which,
very much so.
especially if you're working with agencies, is so critical because it's
Right.
easy just to say, well, they're the expert. So I just need to, I mean, what if they're the expert, but it's not going well? Like,
Right.
how do you find that? Actually, no, I want to ask this as a real question.
Well, I'll
I
tell
just
you.
decided.
I mean, no, it's true because I think in the beginning I had the tendency also, again, when I had more self-doubt and it was kind of like, well, I don't know how to do this. Well, no shit, you don't know how to do anything. Like we've never done this before. We're all learning as we go. Sorry, can I not curse on this podcast?
Oh, no, you can't.
Oh,
This
okay.
is, commerce is chaos. So
Right, right, okay,
there's
okay,
no
okay. Just making
vocabulary
sure.
for that.
Okay. Okay. In those moments, you tend to kind of let them do their thing. To your point, they're the experts. But what I learned very quickly is as soon as I started, and now with all of my agency partners, and all of my agencies tell me we don't have any other founders that are like in every meeting like this, like in the weeds. But it's like, first of all, I want to learn. Is it that hard? I mean, is it that specialized? Like, I want to understand what it is they're doing and what it is they're doing that's special. And then I think once you get that, it becomes very apparent that, this whole big idea, oh, Amazon, it's such and again, my Amazon partners are like one of my favorite partners. They're amazing. So I'm just using them as a hypothetical, but like Amazon is a black box and I don't know, and it's so much, and it's a totally different playbook. That's true. But when you get into exactly, how much you're spending on brand, how much you're spending on not non-brand, and where your keywords are, it's different, but it's not another language. It's not from Mars. You can kind of see what people are doing, and so I think educating yourself, like it's worth taking the time. At a certain point, this is a struggle for me. I have to start pulling back, right? Because it's just a bandwidth issue. So that's kind of a challenge for me at this point. Now that we have a new VP on board and she's incredible, and being okay with that delegation. And I usually don't have. I mean, my team is so badass that I don't have any issues. It's just that there hasn't been that many people in the past. Now I'm hoping I can pull out a little, but still I need to stay on top of it because at the end of the day, you're a founder. Shit hits the fan. It's going to be your fault. And when things go great, you're going to get all the praise. And so it's important to be in the weeds either way.
Yeah. And to know when to get out of them.
Yes.
And then to know when to go back in,
Right.
back
Exactly.
in.
Exactly. Nothing is permanent.
It's basically just a zigzag.
Yes. What did
Oh,
we
man.
sign up for? The more you say it, it's like, well, this sounds crazy. We have to be crazy people to want to do this. But
Yeah. Not recommended. That's good. We're going to rebrand the podcast again. Not recommended.
why you shouldn't become a founder.
Don't press too hard. You will bleed.
That will be that's a great title.
Yeah. This has been such a great conversation. I feel like I could talk to you all day long. I know that I need to let you go get to the next in the details meeting that you're going to have. So just last couple of quick fire questions for you. Where can we find you and where can we find Hanni, and how can we be like the most helpful to you as a band of fangirls and boys?
I think, well, you can find us, heyhanni.com, at Sephora. We're in all doors. Look for us on either the next best, it's hard at Sephora because there's so much product. Go to the next best thing skincare wall. There's a skincare wall with a bunch of different brands and we're on there. In some Sephoras, there's a next best thing body care wall. I go like this because it has like an arched top, which is amazing because it's finally a dedicated place for people to find more indie body care brands. And so we'll be on that. So yeah, I mean, the best thing people can do to support is try the products. If you love the products, help us spread the word. True, authentic word of mouth. People who really believe in the products that we're making is everything. There's no way to, you can't outsource that to an agency. So I just think the more people we get to try the products and love them, the better.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. It's been great.
Thank you,
And
Sam.
good
This
luck
was so
to you and the
fun.
team. It's really, really amazing to watch your growth. It's awesome.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.